Welcome back. We are doing a video today on mechanical fuel pumps. I'm going to show you the crap they sell us now, the high dollar crap they sell us, and this is from the late 80s, early 90s parts store brand. See how much has changed in the last 30 years. This is kind of incredible. We'll go ahead and get through all this stuff. All right, so first and foremost, this came off of my Project 64 Galaxy. It was a parts store brand for a 390 FE. It is an Airtex, if you've ever heard of that. I have kind of seen that name float away, really not be used as prevalent in the last couple of years for mechanical pumps. Mainly Delphi, Carter, Precision, things like that seem to have taken over. So I really don't even know if they make mechanical fuel pumps anymore, but at least about 10 years ago, I think I had my last Airtex pump. Now, there's a plague going on, and you will see it on YouTube and forums and other things. Out of the box, these things have turned into crap. Really, honestly, a crapshoot, kind of like everything else right now, right? So this is May of 2024. Realistically, over the past 6 years, I have gone through one fuel pump every year, if not every other year. Various different reasons. I'll go through kind of why, what the main failure points are on these, and to show you the difference between this bad boy here and your normal parts store run-of-the-mill dude here. Cost. I don't know what these actually were because, quite frankly, this hasn't been on the road since '91, and I would have been 4 years old at the time. So what this was back in the day, I can't tell you. But here's what I can tell you. This thing is beefy. All right, the quality is there, 100%. This is a hardcore heavy piece of aluminum. It actually has service screws here because back in the day, you could tool this off, and if you needed to do diaphragm and the rest of the pump was still good, you could go to the parts store and for a couple bucks, you could grab a diaphragm, pop it in, be back on your way. Also, you could unscrew this. This is an FE only thing. Really, for this year, this unscrewed, and you had a fuel filter element in here as well that was serviceable. The newer one, yes, you can also have an air fuel filter that is serviceable. But realistically, the pump's probably not going to last long enough to even service it. Do they sell the filters? Absolutely. Can you? Absolutely. But unless your tank is really rusty and pumping a bunch of crap, you're really not going to have to worry about this on the new ones because they just don't last that long. So, outside of the serviceable diaphragm, check out this robust, beefy freaking spring and arm. It is honestly insane, the thickness. Even this right here, the mounting flange, is, I would say, 30% thicker than the current ones. So if you see how that is mounted there, that is a pin that is driven right through the side of that housing. Okay, and I'll get to this here in the other Carter brand and kind of show you what one of the main fail points is right now. And it happened to me. I didn't really think it would happen, but it happened to me. But how beefy and robust this thing is for a parts store brand fuel pump is just blows me away. What we have next is a small block Ford Holley 12-833. This is $125 today. This has been sitting on my shelf for realistically the last 10 years. I haven't used it in 10 years, and I'll tell you why I haven't used it. So, is this more beefy and robust? Absolutely. Nice big spring. See that pin? It's not driven through the side. It is swedged in. This is how they do them now. I know there's a piece of gasket here, so you can't really see on that side. There, it is swedged in there. They pop that pin in, and then if you can see right there, there's tabs top and bottom. They more or less take a machine tool of some kind and beat the metal, and more or less it stops the pin from popping out. It is really a craptastic way of making this happen. I think the Edelbrocks are made differently. I could be wrong, but it's basically what that is. Now, while you see the screws down here, you might think to yourself, okay, if something happens, I can get a diaphragm kit and rebuild this $125 pump and be back on the road. Wrong again. Holley at this time, and has not for at least 5 or 6 years that I'm aware of, made a diaphragm replacement kit. So this, when the diaphragm goes, regardless of it having screws and springs you can switch out, it's done. It's junk. Cool things are is this does have pipe thread, and you can kind of put whatever fittings on it that you want. The other downfall of this is if you're using this on a street application, this is 80 gallon per hour. Well, you think that might not be enough, much. This normal parts store brand is 30 gallon per hour, and it can feed a 350 horsepower carbureted engine. 30 gallon per hour, 350 horsepower, 80 gallon per hour. Yeah, way too much. Way too much freaking fuel. So that's what, 600 plus horsepower worth of fuel it can deliver? One thing you have to remember is these are mechanical. They do not care what's happening. They have an arm that's pumping. Everything in here is regulated for 80 gallon per hour. If your engine is on, spinning, and pumping that eccentric, even if it goes into bypass mode, it is still going to pump. It is mechanical. That's all it does, is it pumps. So everybody that says, oh, it's fine, it'll be cool, that is way too much freaking fuel for the street, and that's what happened to me. This is rated at 7.5 psi, and that's pretty much right. At idle, it was at 7 psi. After a while, going down the road, this thing will blow past the needle and seat a lot of time, and people think it's a vapor lock issue. Years ago, I thought the same thing. I thought it was vapor lock, but I found out eventually it was just fuel pressure and volume just overtaking the needle and seat. Now, here is our final one. I literally keep one of these in my trunk, and I'll tell you why. These are $21 basically from Summit Racing. Now, if you have to figure from a manufacturing point and how many hands and companies and distributors touch this in between, for this to be shipped to your door for $21, this cannot be more than a couple dollars to make. Now, check how thin that freaking mounting flange is, just to get a glimpse. See if I can get a side-by-side here. Right, there's the high dollar one. It's about the same thickness as the old aluminum one. Okay? It dwarfs it. Now, this is also for a small block Ford. This, I keep in the back of my Mustang right now. This one is only a year old, not even a year old, actually a couple months old, because yeah, the other one failed last year. So I think in the last 3 years, I've had 2 fuel pumps, so this could potentially be my 3rd this year. I hope not. But 30 gallon per hour. There is our same swedge pin style. Now, everybody says that's really not a big deal. They're fine. I actually had this fail on Power Tour in 2019, thinking that I had a major engine issue. We were driving through Indianapolis, and then all of a sudden I heard a ticking, and it started to get louder, almost a knocking. And everybody that listened to my car, including myself, we all thought the same thing. It's coming from the bottom end of the engine. Well, I decided just to say the heck with it and drove another 40 or 60 miles and was in the middle of nowhere, and finally the fuel pump gave out. The swedge completely failed. The pin removed itself from the arm, and this arm was just flapping in the wind. It wasn't the bottom end. The engine was completely fine. This had failed. And this $20 part left me stranded 60 miles in between towns, between Indianapolis and some other town. So from that day forward, I started keeping replacement fuel pumps. Now, mind you, I have had my Mustang for 19 years. The first 6 years, I had the same fuel pump. After that, I had another fuel pump for another 5 years. Since then, I have put 6 fuel pumps, mechanical fuel pumps, on my car. They fail that consistently. Now, I will fully admit I live in the Rust Belt, so I do not always get time to drive it in the winter, and when our beautiful ethanol fuel sits in on our diaphragms, it will rot them, and that has been the failure for a lot of them. but people are pulling these out of the boxes now and having these fail, whether it be leaking at the crimp, leaking internally into the engine, or, like mine, having the swedge not be swedged good enough, which realistically this is aluminum, and cheap aluminum at that. So this swedge eventually will fail if this hasn't. So, $21, $125, and then you have this beautiful timepiece that I can pretty much guarantee you if I put fuel to it probably would still work if the diaphragm was still in good condition. This is the sad shape of our aftermarket parts, and my honest to goodness opinion as to why. Sure, you can claim blah blah blah, big companies, CEOs, and everything else. These cars aren't driven anymore daily. Nobody cares. Most of these are malt shop cruisers and live on the weekends for 4 or 5 weekends out of the year. Manufacturers do not have to care about this as the same as they do about our current cars on the vehicle that they have to make high dollar parts for. So these are bottom of the barrel. I don't even see these being made too much longer, and if they are, I really don't know if they're even going to be worth buying. Just to be truthful, I love mechanical fuel pumps. They are simple, they are easy to plumb, easy to use, very simple, but I do not see these hanging around much longer. So, take your pick. Go back in time, find a 80s or 90s pump with an actual driven through pin, serviceable diaphragm and filter in some cases, or this forged in China, assembled in Indiana stuff. Because I'm sorry, that's what it is. It says made in USA, but this USA made in is not the same as this made in USA. Good luck out there, boys. See you next time.